The first project today will be our spooky romantic wall decor. All right, I am going to use some of my 2X Ultra Matte paint in black, any type of a metal finish paint, and a chip brush. This beautiful paper from Dollar Tree, gorgeous wrapping paper. I'm going to use something thick as a backing. I just have a piece of very, very thick black paper. And then this frame that we used last year to make a Halloween DIY. We're going to use it again. All right, so I laid this down. What you see on the inside is that inner circle is the size of the inside of that frame. I wanted to give it at least an inch above that so that I could put this over the back and give it sort of a shadowy look underneath. So you can see my struggle here. These are very sharp scissors, but this is how thick this paper is. Maybe a very thick cardstock. So just continue around. And this is the oval that I have when I'm done. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's going to be on the back. I'm going to lay it down on top of my paper. And you know, Dollar Tree paper is very thin, so just be careful. My usual technique of dragging the scissors will not work on this. And then I am going to place this paper over, just making sure that I have my pattern somewhat in the middle. If that doesn't matter to you, then you can just totally not even worry about that part. Okay, so now is the time of year to get your glue sticks on sale. Go to Walmart. They probably even have some on clearance because most of the kids have started back to school, here in the South anyway. I like the purple because it shows me exactly where I'm putting down my glue, and that is important because I want to be sure that I can see where I've been and make sure every area is going to be covered. I want a good grip from the glue onto this very thin paper. Nothing should be coming apart. Do it all the way to the edges. Okay, so then I am going to flip this over on top of the paper. This is why you want a little extra on your edge so you can get it exactly where you want it. Because like I said, fragile paper, you don't want to do anything that's going to stress or tear it. Okay, so I've pressed it down, and now I'm going to take my little squeegee, and this is a Mod Podge squeegee, and it's kind of a flexible, rubbery type material. It works really great for this on fragile pieces of paper because it won't tear anything. Well, so far, it hasn't torn anything. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I burnish it down all the way to the edges, making sure that if there are any little lumps of glue that I've worked those all out to the outside. That way we don't have wrinkles and bubbles. I will trim off a large amount of this to make it a little more manageable. And I like the edge when I use a sanding block. So this is how I'm going to get that nice clean edge. Just using a sanding block. Y'all have seen this done before, and I do it all the time. But if you want to just use your scissors and fussy cut all the way around, you can do that too. Because really, once you get this backing on, you're not going to see your edges. This is just a personal preference for me. I am just going to continue around, make it nice and smooth all the way around. And it kind of gives it, you know, it adds to the age look of it when you kind of fray it off like that. Okay, so here is this painted in the beautiful matte black. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We're going to make it even more gorgeous. There's so much detail in here that you can't see, right? Well, we're going to fix that up. So there are some screws in the back of this, assuming that this was probably maybe a picture frame or a mirror at one point. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that this frame itself is like a resin, very flimsy, very lightweight, which makes it convenient when you go to the thrift store and you're buying by the pound. This didn't weigh very much at all. Okay, I took the screws out because I need something to rest my backing on, and I can make a wider surface to put glue down if I use these little building blocks. So they happen to be the perfect width to go down in that little channel and rest over the areas where the screws were. So we'll have a nice flat surface so that we can apply glue. Now, just in case, go ahead and paint those black if your frame is black. If it's white, then paint it white. That way, when you look at it from all directions, you don't see the wood block under there. You don't want to see the mechanics of it, right? So you're going to add glue to each of those sections and then pop your frame back on. And this is how it's going to look so far. I want to be sure I give good before pictures so that you can really tell the difference when we spruce it up. So I'm going to use this rich espresso on the frame, and I'm going to use this tarnished silver, it's like an alcohol spray. I think you use it mainly for crafting like paper crafts, but it gives such a nice patina and aged look that I like to use it on my older projects. I also, or the things that I want to appear antique, I also use this when I'm doing bones to make the bones look, you know, aged in a proper way. Okay, so when I get it on there, I'm just going to dry it with my little tool here. Get it all dry. I don't want anything smearing. So here's that rich espresso I was talking about. I have bronze colored paints, but I don't have anything that looks it doesn't look like the depth that I want in a bronze. And I think that this over the black is going to be like the perfect solution for that. And you can just tell me what you think. I think it definitely looks bronze, like an aged bronze. If you use that chippy brush and you just start going side to side, and sweeps all the way across. I'm not trying to get down in the cracks in this situation. The black is going to be down in all the spaces, and this more of a metallic color is going to sit on the high points. So it makes it look like it is sort of a tarnished look. Look how beautiful that metallic paint just brings out all the detail in the beading, the little filigree on the side. The shape of it is just highlighted, in my opinion, with this. It's so pretty. I had originally pulled out like a tarnished silver paint to do this, but since I'm changing my room into something that is more of a dark and moody theme, I thought I could use this in my room. So I wanted to make sure that it fit into kind of the aesthetic that I'm going for, which, by the way, is not very textbook dark and moody. It's definitely not dark academia because I don't have books everywhere, but you know, I'll be sharing some of that stuff with you guys as I go along. Now, see, now the paper is too stark white, and we want this to look a little more luxurious, more like a damask. So I am going to just kind of brush this all over, and I've barely got any paint in the brush, just barely. Put it in the centers of the little floral pieces, along all of the details. I want to go around the outside where there's like a lip that's like almost an inch between the front of the frame and the backing that I'm working on right now. And it gives it a shadow around the edge, which to me is so beautiful. I love it. It looks old and vintage. Just, I love it. So now I've just got a bath sponge that I've torn into pieces. I like to use it when I'm doing different techniques with paints. And I really like this. You just, when you dip in, be sure you offload some and then just kind of twist that in your hand back and forth to change the pattern if it's something that is very obvious. Like if I was putting a very dark color, there's no way I would want to pounce it in the same pattern, because then you would see that there was a pattern, and that's not how aging works, right? So now I'm going to go back over it, and if you get too much of a color on there for what you wanted, you know, maybe you make a boo-boo and it's not exactly what you're looking for, go back over it with some gray. Easy. All right, now we got some skeleton arms from Dollar Tree. I'm playing around to see, because I know I want these hands to be together in some way, and they will clasp. You know, you can put them together like this. It's pretty nice there. I know that I want to do this on that frame somehow, so I'm just thinking about it. Okay, I'm going to take this satin paint here. This is heirloom white. I absolutely love this color. And I'm going to spray paint those bones. They're going to dry thoroughly. That's only one coat the front, one coat the back. Then I'm going to take this spray and I'm going to start spritzing this on here. This is going to give, again, that aged look that I like, and it's going to give it a more of a realistic look. Now, I could speed right through all of this because some people don't want to be bothered watching the process, they just want to see how it ends. But for those of you who watch my channel who do these things on your own, because maybe you can't find the type of decor that you really enjoy, so you want to do your own, then you need to see exactly how to do it, right? And I don't want to rush you through it and feel like you're overwhelmed and you can't do it, because you absolutely can do this, okay? So there'll be very little increase in speed here. I want you to be able to see what we're doing. So I'm going to spray that on. I'm going to pat it off. Do not rub, because it will make the entire bone gray, and that's not the idea. You want to let it dry in between layers. Yes, this process does take a little time, but you can put it in front of a fan, or if you don't have a lot of humidity, put it in the direct sun outside and help these things to dry. So once I have enough of the spotting on there to my taste, I'm going to start building my layers of antiquing wax. The areas that would normally catch grunginess and dust and dirt are going to be where all those small bones are. So I'm going to go in there and just darken those areas. I know that I want those low spots to hold some color. So I'm just going to tap this on. If you prefer using a chalk paint for your projects, you can do that too, but beware that when you start fooling around with putting any moisture on chalk paint, it will start to flake off or lift. So just, keep that in mind. That's why I prefer spray paint for this. Okay, so now it's just, again, I'm going in all the spaces, all of the little dark spaces. I'm making them even darker, and I'm just going to build up slowly. You can see already how it's beginning to look a little more aged. I'll do some wiping with my sponge on top of here. And if you don't have the antiquing wax, remember there is a recipe. I wouldn't even say it's a recipe. I just tell you how you can use coffee to stain things while you're crafting coffee or tea. So, I mean, you can definitely do it that way if you prefer. But I've had this bottle of antiquing wax forever, and I'm still using it all the time, and there's a lot left in there. So you let these layers dry in between, otherwise you're just smearing around the same paint, and that's just kind of a waste of your time and your product. So just continue along. I'm going back over where the joints are and where those little bones are, and in between the fingers, because I want to show some shadow. I don't want everything to be comical in this. This is not like a funny Halloween. This is more of a living a spooky life situation here. Or if you do prefer the dark and moody, something like this would be perfect. And in fact, all the little projects that I do in this video today are going to be appropriate all year long, but you can definitely use these at Halloween if you like. So now I've gotten my sponge, and I'm going to start just stippling that on. I'm just pretty much just popping it on here and there, twisting the brush, or the sponge rather, with that antiquing wax, and then pouncing it up and down. I don't want to rub off anything that I've already put on there. I'm going around the edges of the bone, and I'm also going to go making sure I go in between the fingers. Now the back side of the hand and bone you don't necessarily have to do, because you won't see that, but definitely the sides. This is not a difficult process, right? It may take a little bit longer to achieve, but you can always work on different projects in between while your items are drying. That's what I always try to do. And then when I get ready to edit, I just splice everything together in a way that would make sense to somebody who's watching it. So if you do want to show this entire bone, or you're not exactly sure how you're going to lay it down, go ahead and extend that over just a little bit. Too much glue, too much wax on the fingers will make it where you can't glue it down to your surface, and I'm going to need to secure it in some way, but you can use mounting tape for that. So, there's a way to get around everything. But look at the bones now compared to how they were when we first started. This is definitely a big difference. Now, once they're completely dry, I'm going to take them over to my frame. Now, if these bones were more narrow, I could tuck them right inside the frame in that little gap that I was talking about. I could do them like this and put them together, or I can cross them over one another, and that's what I decided to do. And I'm using mounting tape. So I'm going to use a little bit of that mounting tape right behind the where the bone begins to get narrow. And I'm going to press it down onto that beaded area. And then I'll go to the other side. And what makes it convenient is the shape of the frame has little pieces on it that are symmetrical on both sides. So I can count down those and know exactly where to put the other bone so that they're even. This mounting tape is really nice. You can definitely get it something similar to it. Alien tape, I believe somebody told me is what it's called. And you can get it at Walmart. So I'm just going to go in with my glue and put it together. I don't want the glue to necessarily be showing. So if you do get any glue on the outside, try to get it off there really quickly so you don't tear your paper. And I'm just going to flood a little bit of glue between the joints of the fingers so that it catches the other hand and it can dry. But you can certainly use your mounting tape here if you want to as well. Now I want to put a very beautiful romantic arrangement on the inside. So I have, when I was thrifting recently, I found two beautiful roses. This big purple rose, and then there is a rose bud as well. I am going to just poke these right into the framework of those clasp hands. I'm not going to be too concerned about, putting foam or anything in there. We're just going to glue it in. I don't want this to be a big, busy arrangement. I want this to be something that is pretty simple, but still elegant, beautiful. These dahlias are from Dollar Tree. Going to cut these off. And then all I'm doing right now, I'm not using glue. I'm just pushing these around on the frame to see how I want to arrange it. I've got some of those black leaves out of there. I'm going to use those too. Later on, I do add some purple leaves. You'll see that in the end screen. And you'll use the same process with gluing it down, So this is why we don't glue them first. I'm going to move things around a little bit and decide how I like them, and then I can add my glue. I think it looks much better like that. So maybe the lady of the house is a bride. Maybe she's in love. Maybe she loves gardening. Who knows? But she's represented right here. And that beautiful, beautiful Dollar Tree paper is what inspired this entire look. Yes, just a roll of paper. But I knew it had to be prettied up and used in a project for you all who love your everyday spooky decor. Now again, I'm going between those fingers and I'm just kind of flooding a little bit of glue on all the flower stems that are down in there. And then I just individually glued down the black ones there, the black leaves. I've got some gorgeous, this is like a velour or velvet ribbon that came from Hobby Lobby. And I got it for 50% off, I think. Beautiful ribbon, and I knew that I wanted to use this. It's in the Christmas section, but I knew I had to have it for spooky decor. So I'm just going to do a very simple bow, and I'm going to cut this off. If you don't want a bow for your little bouquet, you do not have to have a bow. But I really wanted to add this fabric. It just gives another little bit of texture and interest to the project, and it's all about, making it your own. And so I did add in this little ribbon. You could also put something in the middle of the ribbon. If you wanted to put a spider or rhinestone of some sort in the middle, that would be pretty too. I think I am very happy with this, and I think it is the look that I was hoping for. Everything looks good together. You could always brush a little bronze over your leaves if you want to, but I don't have to have everything matchy-matchy. The next project is going to be a bronze pedestal candle. So here's the other candle, the shorter one of the two. This is a jar lid, which I painted with black chalk paint. Here is a candle sleeve or a hurricane, and then a thrifted glass candle holder. I also have a little bit of that paper from Dollar Tree. I'm going to first use some Goo Gone or alcohol or acetone, whatever you want to use, to get off the writing on the bottom, and then you're going to wash it with soap and water and thoroughly dry it. The back of this paper has lines on it and a grid on it, which makes it perfect for you to do these types of crafts. They're really going to help you out with that paper. So I'm just going to kind of measure by laying it down. I'll cut off an even amount to wrap all the way around the back of the candle. And then right along the edge of the paper, there is like a print line. I'm going to cut that off too. I did consider that when I was measuring the length to put it on the candle. So I'll just trim that all off. And then here's our piece of paper. Get your design the way you like it. I'm going to take my little hurricane here, roll it. If I have a little overlap, that's great. That's what I'm going for. You don't want a lot, so trim it down where it just goes over, maybe an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch over. I'll use my double stick tape that I happen to get from Dollar Tree. Press it down on the glass. This way we're not waiting on Mod Podge to dry. We're not worrying about wrinkles. This is the perfect way to do this, and then if you want to change it later, you can change it out easily. I'm carefully pressing that down into half of where the tape is, leaving the other half of the tape exposed to stick this page on. Now I had it a little bit crooked, so I had to adjust just a little. And that's okay. I had a little tear on the back side, but it didn't tear through, thank goodness. And I'm just going to press that down. And trim off if you have a little extra tape, hanging over, you can trim it off. Then you can grab the sanding block and get it right close to the edge, just like you would any other project. Just like it was if it was a piece of wood. Just be sure you hold on to it good so you don't drop and break it. I'm going to do this all over the top. And then I'm going to go along and do this on the bottom as well. I don't want anything hanging over because I want this to be rich and elegant looking. Look how pretty. Oh, this paper is beautiful. So here's our clean candle. I'm going to use this as the top. And this, like I said, is just a jar lid. We want this to appear to be one piece. So we are going to stick it together. All of my E6000 glue was clumped up and dried. If you have tips on how to keep that stuff from doing that, please tell me, because I have so many tubes I had to throw away because I can't use them anymore. So I grabbed this super glue from Dollar Tree, questioning whether or not it was actually going to hold these two together, but I gave it some time. This is a little multi-pack you can get at Dollar Tree, and would you look at that? It won't even wobble. Perfect. So I'm going to grab that chalk paint. This is just a rich black, and I'm going to tap it off, and I'll use this little pouncer to go all the way around my edge. I'm just rubbing this on. If you have makeup, the little makeup sponges, you could use those also. Use the flat edge. I'm just going around the edge of the white, the edge of the glass, so that it looks like one piece. And then you can pick your little hurricane shade up, and you can extend it a little bit down the sides just to continue that aged look that we're going for. Okay, so I got the top. Now I'm going to kind of smear it on the side a little bit, make it look old. It makes that print stand out with that rich black next to it. And we're going to do the bottom too. See how that just really finishes it off? I love that. I love that edged look like that. So we're going to let it dry just like that. And then the process that we used on the inside of the frame, we're going to use the same process here and make this beautiful and rich looking as if it has been in an old home on the walls forever. My niece does Sims games, and she did a build that recently had some black wallpaper in it that was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I don't want my room to be that dark. I want it to be a little more foresty looking, But yeah, I sure appreciate the look of it. That's stunning. Right, once you get the look you want, I'm just going to go ahead and spray this on now after I've done the paint. You can do it either way. You're not going to hurt yourself either way. And I'm just spraying it on top of a towel that's just a rag I use here in my studio. If you have any runny spots, just tap them off. If it runs on your page, that's totally fine. It's part of the aging process, right? So look how nice this looks together. It looks as though it was made as one piece. And I love that it now looks this black color, which really brought it together. And now we're going to add that espresso. Again, I'm starting off slow, so I'm going to start on the bottom in that rim right there on the edge and just flick that back and forth. I'm not looking for a solid painted line. It's just, again, brush strokes. And I guess there is sort of a pattern to it, you know, but I'm not trying to get like an even amount. We want it to look like it aged this way. I'm going to go back and forth on the rounded parts just to keep that rounded look. It just makes sense that it would wear in that way when it is wiped and cleaned. Then I'm going to go around all the beautiful curves. Y'all, I ordered lamps, new lamps for my room, and they have the amber, like a teardrop in the inside of the, you know, the standing part of the lamp that makes a night light. So you can turn the light on and off, and you can also use the amber night light. Oh, that's going to be perfect for fall when I am watching movies in here in my room by my hotbilly stove. Can't wait. Okay, so I've built it up about this much, and what I do is turn it back and forth, and I add more on in the spaces where I feel like it needs more, and it shows me if I've left anything off. Go ahead and address that and cover that. So that's what I'm doing here until I get the coverage that I like, and then of course you are going to let it dry after you do that. I don't need necessarily, with the process that I'm using, to color the top of it. It just didn't feel right to me not to do it. So I went ahead and worked on that top too. And I'm trying to kind of keep it circular. Now, if the sleeve that you have doesn't fit perfectly over the top, mine fits like perfect. There's no extra lip, nothing. I am going to secure that down with some hot glue, and I do it in 4 different places. I let that dry thoroughly. I mean, you really, really need to let the glue dry. If you use the candle top that is bigger, a little bit bigger than your sleeve, you'll be better off, I think. But look at it with the candle on the inside, and we didn't have to do anything special to the actual candle insert because we have this beautiful frame. First, it's going to be a mystery lady print. Of course, we will be needing some paint brushes. You know, we got to paint, and here are paints we're going to be using. Chalk paint in rich black, and then a rich espresso. I have a frame that I thrifted that's got a lot of detail in it. It's raised. I think this will be really pretty for what we're going to do. You can see it's got kind of a lip. Here's the print that I chose from TEMU. Dark and mysterious, yet elegant and beautiful. This is a piece of cardboard that I saved from a calendar. So I want to make sure that my piece of cardboard is going to fit on the back of the frame because I want it to look like there's a lip. It's going to create more shadow, and that's the look that we want, right? Of course, dark romance. Now, I'm just trying to center this on the sides, and I will start adding just a little bit of kind of smeared hot glue. Like you want to put on your cool temp and you want to just smear it out a little bit with the tip of the gun. and then you're going to press it down. And I'm going in the area where the white is because I don't want to cause any wrinkling or damage on the print part. So I'll do that on the bottom side first, flip it over, then I'll go right to the back with a little bit. Now, of course, you could cut this off if you would like, but this works for me. I'm going to press it down into that glue. This is going to give it a clean edge and make it look more professional. Same thing here. We're just going to press it down. Make sure that you're not getting any bubbles, wrinkles, or any of that in there. Just keep going away from the middle and outward. And then finish with the last side. This is easy to do. It doesn't matter what your glue line looks like on the back because it's on the back. No one's going to see it. And we're going to be covering this up so it is nice and finished. It would be a beautiful Valentine's gift for the one you love, with a little spooky heart like yours. Okay, so let's do something to this frame. I'm going to protect my table. I'll grab my black chalk paint and I'm going to go all over this frame. I'm making sure that I tap down into all of the little recessed areas and all of the areas above. I'm going to be sure that I get the outside edges of the frame, the joints where they connect, and then we're going to flip it over and we're going to get right on the inside. So everything will be black, every bit of it. See here? Because we're going to make this look like a recessed canvas, we want to make sure it is all black and it blends well. So this is a thick piece of felt. I got a big stack of these at the thrift store, but you can definitely buy these probably at any place you buy craft supplies. That's going to be the back of the frame. We're going to trim this down to make sure that it's going to fit underneath that black piece of felt. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it and trimming it down as, you know, as small as I need it to be. Now it's going to fit, so I'll just put it in place, and because it's on cardboard, we can bend it up a little bit while still holding it in place and gluing it down. You're not going to see the glue line here, so you know, do what you can, do what you must. All right, and now it is pretty much centered on there. And we need to create like a cameo type effect, and I'm going to do that by putting some black on here. Now this is just my way of disguising that white line, which you could certainly cut off, but I love the depth that this is going to give. So it's just a bit of a paint technique. I have no idea if anybody's asking me. I'm self-taught with painting. I don't know names of things. I don't know what you would call this exactly, but I call it pretty. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm making sure that I get on the outside of that cardboard too, all over that white line where the print stops. So once I get it on there, I'm going to start kind of tapping it back and forth so that it creates like a more of a feathered or blended type effect, which makes using the foam brush much easier, like a better option in my opinion than using any type of a brush, unless you had maybe a makeup brush, makeup sponge, maybe that would work. So I'm rounding the edges. You can see here I'm kind of rounding the edges. This gives it a little bit of a vignette, or like I said before, I don't know why I'm saying cameo, but you know what I mean. We're rounding it out on the corners. This again is going to give it more depth once it is placed into the frame around the edges. It's going to give it more shadowy, mystery, suspense, you know, that good old look that we're looking for in this video. So now I've got that part done. I'm going to be sure I let it dry. Then I'm going to grab some antiquing wax, just a tiny bit on that brush, and blend that black into the background of the photo. It's going to make, it's just another one of those things that gives you more depth. I don't really know how to explain that more to you, but you see how light and bright that background is? We want to bring that down just a little bit, almost to look like, you know, maybe she's in a haunted house, right? Maybe this is a haunted Victorian home. So we're going to give it that mystery by adding a little bit to it. It's still quite a bit light around her, and around her face and her upper body. So I'm going to use in the same direction, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to go over in front of her and behind her to give this a little more dimension and depth. And this is the result. And I love it. And it didn't take long to do. You just got to let your paint dry, right? Love it. So here's the frame in black that is completely dried. And it's already got black felt on the back of it. All right. So I'm going to take this espresso now. And I'm going to put it down on just my little piece of cardboard so that I can tap it off. Now, I did not have a chippy brush that was dry for this. Everything had been used and washed. So I took another brush and cut into it into rough edges, and I'm going to be using that instead. We use what we have, right? And look how this starts to build. It is so pretty. I always, always encourage you to go light the first time. I don't want blobs in there that I have to wait to dry to go back and correct. So tap as much as you can off, and then by pulling this brush across all of those raised areas, you can still see the black in between, and all of the upper pieces are highlighted. So the beautiful, whatever you call the decorative edges there, they're highlighted. And I think that is so gorgeous. Of course, if you don't like this technique or you don't like this color that I've chosen, consider maybe using like an aged silver or maybe a copper, whatever color that you like. This is my go-to metallic color. It just looks so good to me with the Gothic and, romantic, dark academia look. Look at it, y'all. Is that not gorgeous? It's amazing what just a little bit of paint will do. And it is perfect, I think, for this beautiful print that I got. And this is not a sponsored video, but I think I paid like $2 for that print. It was very cheap. Okay, so I've got some of this velvet ribbon that came from Dollar Tree. And we're going to make a hanger for this before we put our print on, because we want the back, the back of the frame, or the felt that we're going to put down with the print on it, to cover up the bottom of this. So we're going to make a little loop. And this is probably a foot of ribbon, if I had to guess. And I'm going to put it down right over that original hanger that was there. Then I have this curtain, whatever this is. Y'all know what these are, right? You put your curtains on them. I get them at the thrift store all the time, different sizes, different colors. Some are metal, some are wood. But this is going to be perfect to use as a hanger for this beautiful piece. So I'm going to cover up that original piece there. Grab my handy dandy staple gun, and I'm going to staple on either side of the original hanger. It's going to hold it in place. And I'm going to take that picture, make sure you got it in the right direction. And I'm just going to give it a few staples to hold it in place. And I just kind of eyeballed what the center would be to make sure that my print is centered back into the frame. Didn't have to use glue here, just got it all stapled into place. And she ain't going nowhere, y'all. Not nowhere. Now, I'm careful. I'm underneath where that other hanger is, so it will hold. And look at her. Oh, that's beautiful. So here's that ribbon I was talking about, and it was from Halloween. And I picked up a couple of spools of it. The drawback on this is there's only 3 feet of ribbon. That's the entire, what you're looking at is the entire roll. It's silliness, but let's put a bow on here. We want to give it a little bit more elegance, and she is wearing her beautiful clothing and her hair is up, so let's give her a little more glamour. I just got some black string or black cording over there. I'm just going to use that to tie around the middle, but you can use what you have. I don't want this to necessarily be a piece of jute. I don't want the brown showing. But we're going to cover it up, so I'll show you what you do if you only have jute or you only have floral wire or whatever you have. You can still make this pretty. I'm going to cut those at a slant, but you can dovetail whatever you like. And then I'll cut those off. I'm going to come up here to the top, right where those 2 pieces are. where the ribbon overlaps that loop, and I'll just press that bow right down into it. Now protect your fingers if, there's a chance that you might hurt yourself. And we're going to embellish the middle of that. I love this button. I find these things at the thrift store, and I've got a little bag. It's a very little bag. I don't want to use the cameo here. I think that this one is going to be pretty, but I need to change it from the brassy or gold look to the colors that I've already used. So I'm just pushing it down into the top of that ribbon holder so that I can keep it still somewhat and flat while I apply that beautiful espresso. And then I'm just going to use a damp Q-tip to wipe the paint off of the stone in the middle. And I could definitely have left that stone black, and that would have been beautiful. Isn't that pretty? However, this Tuscan red very closely matches that carpeting that's on the stairs that she's on. I thought, let's layer this paint on here and use this. Once it is painted up, look how pretty that is. That's a couple of coats of paint now. I'm going to use some gloss after it's completely dry, the gloss Mod Podge. I'm going to go over that stone completely and also over the metal part. It's actually plastic, but it's made to look like it's metal, right? You know how they do buttons. Now, if you have a pretty rhinestone or something, you could certainly use that there. But look how pretty that is. Such a beautiful color. I love the results of that. So it won't sit completely flat with the little button part in the back. And since it's plastic, I can easily just cut that off. You could also use your scissors if you've got some tough scissors. Then I'll add some hot glue and put it in its new home, right in the middle. Y'all always protect your fingers, okay? Always protect your fingers. I've just gotten kind of used to where I put my hands. I don't have that many accidents as much. I love this. Let's go ahead at this point and kind of age this round also, or this loop. I thought at first I would leave it black because the bow is black, but it looks like a piece of the hardware, and since the rest of the hardware is done this way, I thought it appropriate to follow through and do it this way. And the results are so wonderful. I absolutely love how this turned out. It's very pretty. For Valentine's Day, for any day. You could even embellish it with rose or any type of flower. You could use a black flower, a black dahlia maybe would be pretty there. Whatever you would like to do. Flag sign. Okay, so we're going to take some flowers, whichever one you want to use out of your stash. I have some of these beautiful purple cosmos and some of those little silk roses with the rhinestones. I'm going to use some black tulle. This beautiful sign that I got from TEMU. It's just a little fabric sign. Gorgeous. And then this I got it dirt cheap, but you can see that it was from Target. Okay. You're going to need some little hangers for the back if your sign doesn't come with it, and this one did, so I won't have to worry about that. Now these signs, so far, and I've used a few of these, they are two-sided, which is wonderful because not only do they look better and more substantial, but you can take these apart and then use the same print 2 times. Talk about save your money. Yeah. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. Not at all. I just really, really like this beautiful flag. So I'm going to just kind of pull it apart, and then you can have rough edges like this on your project if you want, or you can take the side that still has the little folded seams, and that's what I'm going to use for this one. I'll put the other side for another day, and then I'll try to get the right spacing on here for the sign, and I'm just going to glue it down. I like to start like in the middle once I get my placement right, so I'm not losing my placement. Now I'm double checking there before I press it down. Then I'll go around the bottom, and it does overhang on the sides, so I'll just kind of wrap it around on the sides and glue it down. And then we'll do the same process on the top. Once it's all down, I just want to trim it out. You don't have to do this part if you don't want to. Or perhaps you could set it up a little higher on your sign, but I think the embellishments make it look nice, a little more substantial, so we're going to go with that. I'm just using some of this, it's just a little roll of like burlap, meshy type ribbon. I'm going to use that here. So now it's all trimmed out. Look how nice and beautiful that looks. You can leave this alone just as is if you like something that is simple, or you can add some embellishments like I am. We're going to take a 9-inch fold and we're just going to flip it over a few times. So that's 1 fold, 2, 3. Y'all, this does not have to be precise, and you don't have to use as many folds as I do, but the more folds that you make, the more fluffy this is going to be. So that is totally up to you. And like I mentioned before, you can skip this part. And then you can just trim it off when you get it as long as you want it. Now I like to use jute most of the time, but this is so frail, I figured if I put jute on here and kind of cinched it really tight that it might kind of cut through it. So I just decided to use another piece of this tool, just cut a little strip, and I'll use that to go around the middle. Now you can get tulle at Dollar Tree now, so if you want to do that, you can certainly do that. Now I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to do this just like we would any old bow that we do. Okay, so if you're not used to working with the tool, it is not a big deal. We're not doing anything real fancy here with this tool. I just like the wispiness of it, and I feel like it's really that black, wispy, almost kind of a fog or hazy type thing. It's very Edgar Allan Poe-ish, if you will. So, if we're going to go with the raven here, I want to continue that and make it look nice and fluffy and, you know, old and cute. So I'm just going to go through the ends here, and if you don't want to go through the ends and give it kind of little jaggedy cuts, you don't have to. You can always leave it in a loop, but I like the idea of being able to pull this out in all kinds of directions. I'm just tucking this, the little string we made from the tool, it's over and under that top ribbon, because the top one I did not glue it straight down. It's not glued down yet. I wanted to have a little space where I could tie something to it. Just a little extra security. Now you can see that the raven is almost like a violet kind of color. It's coming off as like a violet, and there are some other things in the picture that have that purplish look. But rather than calling that a problem because it's not solid black, we're going to go with it because I love the red and the purple and the black and the way this looks together. And I love these Cosmos. I've used these in projects last Halloween and was very satisfied with them. And they came from Dollar Tree, but the quality is fantastic. So I'm just going to cut off the little tab thingies that stick into the wire pieces, but cut those off so that this can be more flat. And I'm just going to glue the leaves straight onto the back of the flower. Always, always, when you get these layered flowers, make sure that you rotate them a little bit because they're in layers. So you can kind of splay them out a little bit rather than have them all clumped up and only looking like 4 leaves. We don't want to do that. See how you can kind of twist it around so you get to fill in all those gaps. See what I'm doing here? Very, very easy. Just a little bit of hot glue to put the leaves back on, and then it's trimming off the little stem part. See this little part? We're going to cut that little plastic off because now everything is connected together, so it's not going to fall apart. And I want to add another one on this side. You see the butterflies on this picture? This is gorgeous. I want everything in my house for Halloween to look just like this. I don't know if I'm going to go with this theme or not because I love the vintage look. But when I'm thinking vintage, I usually do something like, you know, the orange and black and white circusy type Halloween stuff, which I love, by the way, love it very much. But I think I may try something a little more mature this year, a little more romantic, spooky. What do you think? And y'all, I know, some of y'all are going, why in the world are you doing Halloween in the summertime? We haven't even done fall. Well, this is for all those people who love Falloween or Halfoween or what do you call it? Springoween. So yeah, as I was saying, this is for those of you who love that spooky lifestyle and who want to enjoy these mystical and spooky looks through your house all year long, because not everybody is into that, and that's fine. And if you're not ready for this, you know, just save it and you can come back and watch this video at the end of summer or in fall or in October, whatever you would like to do. So this is the final look, and oh my goodness, I love it. My bow, believe it or not, is a little too big up here, or my little fluffy thing. Just trim it down a little bit, fluff it out, kind of like bat wings or moth wings. So you can also cut into these pieces of tulle to give them a jagged edge, kind of snip at it. Pulling at it doesn't really work. I tried that, but that didn't really work. So cut it where you can. Oh, y'all love this. I absolutely love this print, and I'm so inspired by this print. I think you'll see. We have another project where I'm going to be using the raven. Hope you like this one. It's on this piece that was on the frame because I just really wanted to highlight it, you know, on the frame. And for this, I really want to make this look, you know, a little more richer and a little more, I don't know, a little more bronze than black. Let's just say what it is. That's what it is. The next piece is going to be a Gothic candelabra. So I found this recently at Goodwill bin store, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this. How perfect is this going to be underneath that beautiful frame piece of art with the raven on it? Yes. So I'm calling this Gothic. You can call this whatever you want. This was made in the USA and it is old. Okay, so we're going to use possibly some candles from Dollar Tree. I am going to take some matte black paint and I am going to clean this, and then I am going to spray paint it, and then we're going to dry brush some more of that espresso on it. And by the way, thank you to one of my viewers who told me that it's pronounced espresso. My whole life, as country as I am, we have said espresso. That is incorrect. So if it bothered anyone, I'm so sorry. You know, it is what it is. So now I know. You know better, you do better. So anyway, now I'm going to start just wherever I want to at the top, so I don't have to worry about trying to hold it and touch the paint that I've already put down. So I'm going to add this on here. I'll be a little more generous on this piece than I was on the frame because I just really wanted to highlight it, you know, on the frame. And for this, I really want to make this look, you know, a little more richer and a little more, I don't know, a little more bronze than black. Let's just say what it is. That's what it is. I'm going to brush this in all of those areas, and you can see the difference that it makes if you look to the right side and to the left side of the frame. If it was left black, you would not see any of those beautiful details. To me, this looks like an expensive iron piece, but it's not. It's just a, you know, like the resin that they use. It's just a simple, inexpensive piece. This probably could have come from, what was the name of that? Was it Home Decor, Home Interiors? That's what it was. You know, possibly a piece like that. If you can find those kinds of things, that would be really nice to redo and have some beautiful, beautiful pieces too. So look at the difference that this makes. I'm leaving all this in because if you're not someone who's ever done this before, I want you to feel encouraged. I want you to feel brave, and I want you to do something different. You might even have something in your house already that's black, that maybe you had farmhouse like me. I had farmhouse for a long time, and now I want to add some color back into my life. I want to add some richness and coziness that I am not finding anymore from that airiness that comes with farmhouse. I just want to feel like I am just wrapped up in comfort and, oh, like Harry Potter stuff, you know the feeling. That's what I'm trying to do. But I don't want to spend a lot of money doing it. And I want mine to be my own, right? Because in this channel, we make it my own and we do it on a budget. And you can certainly do this on a budget. Maybe you can find it at a garage sale if you don't have good thrift stores, or make something that, take something you already have. Offer to clean out grandma's closet or mom's closet or your sister's closet, and maybe you can find something like that. So here are the ones from Dollar Tree, and here are the ones from IKEA. These were thrifted. These I like much better. However, they both fit. So either way, you can use either candle. Now I'm going to do a little something extra on these candles because I want them to appear old and used. So we're going to give them a little bit of a little spiffing up. I have taken the plastic off. I have removed with my Goo Gone all of the residue from the stickers. And I am now going to make it look like we've got wax dripping. I did a candle last year using I think it was a Dollar Tree napkin that had a raven on it. Absolutely stunning. I am so pleased with that candle because it was also a plastic candle, a battery operated candle. It turned out wonderful. It had lots of drips on it. It looked so old. But we're going to do something similar with these. So you can take your heating tool or your blow dryer, whatever you have, blow over the top of it when you're adding your layers, and it will smooth out those layers to look like one melted waxy situation. Now you can add on, put more drips on there if you want, keeping in mind gravity's going to pull it downward, so just I'm trying to be a little more realistic, not going sideways with it, because in my house wax doesn't go sideways. That would be a different video. Okay, so once that is done and cooled, then you can lay it down. I'm going to take a little bit of my painter's tape from Dollar Tree and go right around the fire part because I don't want any paint on here. I am not digging the color of these candles, and I need to make the hot glue grips look the same color as the candle. So I'll be taking 3 of these into my garage with a fan and some ventilation, and I will be painting them to make them all look the same and all look a little more realistic. I mean, we know it's a fake candle. We wouldn't be putting tape over the actual flame. So my heirloom white I put on there, and then I took some of my alcohol spray and I sprayed all over the candle. Little flicks. You can flick on some dark paint if you want to, but this is just a tarnished silver color that I sprayed on here. Then I'm going to take my brush and some antique wax. And you can also, I don't know that I would use a baby wipe. It might lift up the alcohol drops, the paint drops. So I just wanted to use my chippy brush and a dry paper towel to rub that in. I'm going around where the wax is. I'm going around the top all the way to the bottom, because the little rubber part on the bottom, which turns the candle on and off, is where it's going to sit down in the cups on the candelabra. And I want to make sure that it is a solid finish all the way down to that point. So when we take it off, isn't that better? Doesn't that look grungy and better, like it's been in an old home? Yes. I'm going to go around. Just make sure that you get all around the areas of the candle that have where you have made some wax drips on the top to really give it a nice look. If you have never been to my channel before and you have never met me before, my name is Brandy, and I'm all about inexpensive, beautiful, unique DIYs. So thank you for watching as part of a playlist, or just if you found the video on my channel or in suggestions or wherever you found it. I would love to have you as part of my YouTube family. We are very active in the comments in all of our videos, and I do respond to everyone. So feel free to leave me a comment and tell me what you think about this. Won't this be stunning with that picture? Okay, now it's time for the charming candle. This actually, at the last minute, I changed my mind and decided not to use lace because I found my scarf before I found the lace. This is a little bit of trim. Here's this beautiful scarf that I thrifted. And here is a little cat medallion that I used on another project that I pulled it off. I'm going to lay this beautiful jar down, and I'm going to cut off. I wanted to make sure that I saved that fringe off of there, so I'm cutting above where it has a seam on it so I can put it aside and keep it for something else. It's pretty. Look at that. This kind of looks like a spider web to me. I don't know, it just looked Halloween-y. And it was calling to me more than the black lace that I had, so I decided to go with it. Going with my gut here, y'all. Hope you like it. I'm going to use some hot glue and protect my fingers and then press this down into there, trying to make sure that my lines are pretty neat and I haven't distorted my pattern in any way. Folding it over, trimming a little bit more, and again, I'm trying to trim underneath where the patterns go together so that it doesn't fray. A little more hot glue, and we're going to lay down a nice seam here. Then you can trim more if you need to at this point. All right, so I'm just going to stuff that in there while I can flip it over and glue off the bottom. I'm adding this down and going around. Then I'm going to trim off what I don't need that's kind of hanging from the top. I trim it twice because you know, I was having a creative block trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with the top of the jar. But I did finally cut it down a little bit more and decided to just tuck it over on the inside. It would have a pretty decent finished edge if I did it that way with nothing sticking up, so that's what I decided to do. I just went along the inside with a little hot glue and just tucking and kind of rolling my fingers down and pushing it into and away from the outside of the jar. And so this is how it looks, almost like a vase. So I decided that I want to use my little trim, my little lace trim here, and go right around where the neck of the jar is. Very easy to do. This is such an easy project. If you have your supplies, you won't have to even pay anything for this. Grab your scraps. You know, I have a bag that I keep next to me that is full of ribbon scraps and little stems and greenery pieces. Grab what you have and work with that. So I'm just going to wrap this around. I don't want to do it too tightly. And then once I get back to the beginning, I'm going to take another layer and go right underneath it. And you could do this the opposite way, but it's easy to do this way. And it was a second thought anyhow. Okay, so this is a little piece that came off of a headband. I'm going to put it down first, and then I'm going to put the cat right on top of it. And I called it a cat medallion, but it's actually a sticker, like a puffy sticker. But I've used it before and I love it. It's so pretty with the wording in the background. So I'm going to put that down on there, and this is how the little jar is going to look. Then I'm going to take my candle and put it on the inside, and of course it's flameless. This is how it looks when the lights are dimmed. Do you like this one? I like it. So here's an option if you like the top to be finished off. You can take some ribbon in a coordinating color and cut it off. Then you can just use it to wrap around the top. It's going to wrap around the outside and fold it over toward the inside, and you just use a little bit of glue to hold it in place. So to give you an idea of what that would look like, you could do it like this. You could also use like a black ribbon or something like that. Finish it however you like. If you've enjoyed this video so far, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. You can just keep going along.